It's unsurprising that given the number of people who go missing around the world every day, thousands of these cases remain unsolved. In some cases, no explanation can be found, and investigators are left at a loss, while in others, foul play is suspected, but a culprit has not yet been identified. Number 10. 21-year-old Lesnar Cardenas is one of many hikers who've gone missing after deciding to hike Mount Shasta in Northern California. But unlike the other people involved in missing person cases from the mountain, he had an accident before reaching the area, and it's been suggested that this had something to do with his disappearance. One of Lesnar's friends had hiked one of the trailheads in the past, and according to the cab driver who drove him to the trail, Lesnar wanted to beat his time. But the morning of the 29th of May, 2025, didn't start as Lesnar had planned. At 10:30 that morning, he was driving in his car when he was involved in a traffic collision that caused it to flip over. According to the California Highway Patrol, a deer had run into the road, and as he swerved to avoid it, he lost control of the vehicle and ended up rolling it. He was taken back to his apartment by a female acquaintance, and when she was later questioned, she stated that Lesnar didn't seem to be injured, and as they spoke, she noticed nothing strange about his demeanor. Hence, she assumed he'd suffered no ill effects from the accident. She went back to his apartment at around 3:30 p.m., but he was no longer there. It would later come to light that he had called for a cab, which picked him up from a Wells Fargo situated on East Cypress at 2:20 p.m. He told the driver to take him to Mount Shasta, and it was then that he revealed his friend's best time, as well as the fact that he wanted to better it. He traveled to the Avalanche trailhead with all the gear that he needed to complete the hike. He was dropped off at the trail and then promptly disappeared. The investigation into his disappearance started 2 days later, on the 31st of May. The Shasta County Sheriff's Office took the lead, but the case was handed over to the Redding Police Department 4 days later, since Lesnar was a resident of Redding. It was determined that he had his phone with him when he entered the trail, and investigators were hopeful that they could track him this way, but they had been unable to do so. The last place that it was known to be is somewhere in the Mount Shasta area. It was determined that it was either turned off or ran out of battery on the 29th of May, the same day that Lesnar went missing. His family states that it's very out of character for him to stay out of touch, and they've not heard from him since he left his apartment that afternoon. It remains unknown how he paid for the 2-hour ride to the mountain, since his wallet was found at his best friend's house later on. Strangely, his passport was missing though. Furthermore, his best friend had never hiked on Mount Shasta before, and neither had any of his other friends. It's been suggested that the accident may have caused him to suffer an injury, and that his cognitive ability was affected. Another baffling fact is that Lesnar's phone pinged at Mount Shasta 16 minutes before the start of his cab ride. Some people believe he may have gone into hiding, fearing repercussions from the car accident, or that he got lost on the mountain and succumbed to the elements, but Lesnar's fate remains unknown. Anyone who has spotted him or knows where he may be is asked to contact the Redding Police Department at 530-225-4200. Number 9. The disappearance of 67-year-old Glenver Osborne from Coal Run in Kentucky is one that has caused his family a great deal of concern, since he's known to have been carrying a large amount of funds when he went missing on the 2nd of March, 2006. Glenver hailed from Michigan, where he was employed by the Ford Motor Company until his retirement in 1996. Following this, he relocated to Virgie in Kentucky, and it was from here that he traveled to Coal Run to attend a land auction. The last known contact that anyone had with Glenver was at about 11 a.m. on the morning of his disappearance. He phoned his daughter and informed her that he had his eyes set on a specific piece of land at Johns Creek, which he intended to bid on. He added that he had withdrawn some cash from his bank account, but was also carrying a check for $20,000. During the investigation into his disappearance, several witnesses came forward to report that they'd seen him at Weddington Plaza in Coal Run, but he's not been seen or heard from since. According to the timeline of Glenver's last known movements, which was put together by investigators, These witnesses saw Glenver after the call with his daughter, and when his family hadn't heard from him by the 5th of March, they filed a missing person report. What's left his family concerned is the fact that he was carrying so much money with him, and it's been suggested that he might be a victim of foul play. When a search was conducted, these fears only intensified when Glenver's truck was found abandoned in the parking lot of the Weddington Square Plaza shopping center, close to a Chinese restaurant. While this may seem like progress in his case, investigators have stated that they believe the truck was driven and left there by someone other than Glenver, and in the weeks that followed, the case only got stranger. One of his friends reported that he picked Glenver up from the shopping center since they had plans to meet with someone, but that same man has on several occasions changed his version of events and has now stopped speaking to the police altogether. He's been unable to state who this man was that they were supposed to meet up with, and he's refused to provide any further details. Hence, Glenver's family believes something untoward happened to him that day and that he may have been robbed, after which his truck was abandoned at the shopping center. If you have any information that can lead to Glenver being found, you're asked to contact the Kentucky State Police Pikeville Post at 606-433-7711. His nameless case number is MP9997. Number 8. 18-year-old Devlin Tate is known to suffer from several disorders, including autism, Tourette's, fetal alcohol syndrome, and cerebral palsy. He has the mental capacity of an 8-year-old child, and because of this, his disappearance has left his family extremely distressed, since he has no way of fending for himself while away from home on his own. Devlin hails from Lake Odessa in Michigan, where he's under the care of his family. He's known to go for a walk every day, and the morning of the 21st of April 2025 was no different. At around 8:20 a.m., he set out from his family's house for his walk, but never returned. The last place where he was seen was at Carl's Supermarket in the downtown area of Lake Odessa, and it's known that he did some shopping while he was there. On a normal day, he would return home as soon as his walk was done, but by that evening, no one had seen or heard from him, and his family contacted the police to report him as missing. They stated that he needs a lot of medication, all of which was left at the house, and so they have grave concerns for his well-being. He usually carries a bridge card, which is an electronic benefit transfer card used in Michigan. The funds are transferred into the cardholder's account, and they can then access the funds, which are usually used to purchase food using the card. During the investigation into Devlin's disappearance, his bridge card was monitored, but worryingly, it's seen no activity since the day that he went missing. He used the card to pay for his shopping at Carl's Supermarket that morning, but has not accessed his funds since. Calls to his cell phone have gone to voicemail, and text messages have not been delivered or answered. The Iona County Sheriff's Office has revealed that Devlin has a few outstanding cases in other counties, and hence he may be apprehensive about approaching the police to ask for assistance if he's unable to find his way home. In a bid to raise awareness of his case, his family has handed out flyers, printed t-shirts, and created a Facebook page detailing the circumstances surrounding his disappearance, but no new leads have been received to date. They've also announced that they're offering a $1,000 reward to anyone who comes forward with information leading to his current whereabouts. Investigators have asked members of the public to keep an eye out for Devlin and to immediately report any sightings of him. If you've seen anyone fitting this description in the Lake Odessa area, you're asked to contact the Lake Odessa Police Department at 616-527-5737. Number 7. One of the most reliable tools used by investigators while they're searching for a missing person is CCTV security camera footage, and hence they've asked residents of Portola Valley in California to look through such footage from their homes in hopes that they'll show the last known movements of 79-year-old Margaret McKinley. Margaret lived in Texas for some time, but decided to relocate to the Bay Area of San Francisco in hopes of furthering her career. Before her retirement, she served as the vice president of a medical equipment manufacturing company, but prior to that she served in the military in Togo, West Africa, as a member of the Peace Corps. One of the more worrying aspects of her case is the fact that she's been diagnosed with dementia and may have become confused and disoriented prior to her disappearance. Hence, she may have trouble finding her way home and is considered to be at a great risk while having no one to assist her. Despite her condition, Margaret still showed a lot of spirit and had a love for the outdoors. On the day of her disappearance, the 1st of May, 2025, she was known to be on the lost trail of the Windy Hill Open Space Preserve. The preserve is situated in Portola Valley in California, and on that day, she and her family had decided to go for a hike, but soon after setting off, the trip took an unfortunate turn. After just a quarter mile of hiking, Margaret somehow became separated from the rest of her family and seemingly vanished into thin air. Her family contacted the sheriff's office, who relayed news of Margaret's disappearance to the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. Margaret's disappearance is seen as unusual, since she was with her family right up to the point when she went missing, and investigators find it strange that she became lost so quickly and that they were unable to locate her. The preserve encompasses a 1,400 square acre area, and hence many searches were needed to cover all the possible areas where Margaret may have walked to. More than 500 volunteers have searched the area thoroughly, but frustratingly, no sign of her was found. The 3,000-mile search was conducted on foot and with the use of vehicles, but to no avail. It's been suggested that Margaret managed to make it out of the preserve and that she then became lost. Hence, residents have been asked to check their security footage in case she was caught on camera. Because of her condition, Margaret may have trouble with decision-making, and it's vital that she be tracked down as soon as possible. She may be unable to successfully navigate even areas that are well known to her, since they may be completely foreign to her at this point. Temperatures in the area were high at the time of Margaret's disappearance, and it's feared that she may have gone through some trouble surviving in the elements on her own. This, coupled with the fact that the area is known to contain dangerous animals such as rattlesnakes, has left her family and her longtime partner, Kit, fearing the worst. A detailed description of Margaret has not been made available, other than the fact that she has gray hair. Her family reported that during the hike she was wearing a red jacket and black pants. Anyone who has footage of Margaret, or who has seen her since she disappeared, is urged to contact the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office at 650-363-4911. Number 6. 50-year-old Sherree Denise Brown has been missing since the 17th of October 2017, and her family fears she may have been a victim of foul play, as they suspect that she may have been abducted. For the last 3 years before she went missing, Sherree had been living in Newport News in Virginia, specifically at the Berkeley Village apartment complex, which is located on Daffia Circle. She was having a tough time in 2017, as she'd been battling stage 4 breast cancer, and hence had been consulting with doctors regularly while receiving treatment. She also needed to take medications that had been prescribed to her. The last place where anyone saw her was on the day of her disappearance, the 17th of October, in the vicinity of the 800 block of Daffia Circle. A week later, when her daughter hadn't seen her or heard from her, she went to the Newport News Police Department where she filed a missing person report. She told investigators that when she and Sherree last spoke on the day of her disappearance, she told her mother that she'd been through a traumatic experience. She recounted how 10 days earlier she'd been attacked and assaulted by 10 men. One of the men tried to attack her further after forcing her to accompany him behind a 7-Eleven store, but she somehow managed to break free and she fled for her life. But as soon as she made it out of the man's truck, he started the engine and attempted to run her over. She was lucky to escape with her life. It isn't known whether this incident is linked to her case, but her family is worried that something untoward has happened to her. When they were questioned, they informed the police that Sherree had opened her apartment door to someone on the day that she went missing, and they felt that the same person was the one who abducted her. Since there was no sign of forced entry or a struggle having taken place, they believe she knew the person responsible for her disappearance, though they've been unable to prove that theory. When the apartment was searched, Sherree's purse, wallet, phone, and most importantly her medication were found inside. This means she doesn't have the medication that she needs, and hence is at an even greater risk. The following month, on the 13th of November, she was supposed to attend a doctor's appointment, but she failed to show up, and her family reported that she would have never done so unless something was seriously wrong, as she'd never missed an appointment since receiving her diagnosis. Investigators stated that they'd opened a case against a man who had assaulted Sherree, but declined to share any further details on that investigation. Her daughter informed the police that Sherree never left the house without her phone and purse, both of which were left behind. Anyone who can provide the police with any additional information about Sherree's disappearance is asked to contact Newport News Emergency Communications at 757-247-2500. Sherree's NamUs case number is MP125064. Number 5. In February of 2025, 23-year-old Antonio Hernandez Sanchez was working for the Mount Olive Pickle Company in Mount Olive, North Carolina. He's known to have a love for the outdoors and especially fishing, which is one of his favorite hobbies. After he was reported missing, it was revealed that he was last seen while at work at around 2:30 p.m. on the 6th of February. It isn't known whether he completed his shift that day, but when he failed to return home at the usual time, his family became concerned, and they reported him as missing. The official investigation into Antonio's case began 2 days later, on the 8th of February. The Mount Olive Police Department started a search of the area around his workplace and the areas that he's known to frequent, and that's when they found their first clue. When they searched the cliffs of the Noose State Park, in a spot where he often went to do some fishing, Antonio's vehicle was discovered, but he was nowhere to be seen. His fishing gear was located at the same spot where he usually fished, but the surrounding area failed to deliver any further clues. In the days and weeks that followed, more searches of the area were carried out, but to no avail. His family states that while he loved to spend time alone out in nature, he would always return home or let them know if he was going to be late. Hence, they fear for his well-being and are concerned that he may have sustained an injury while out in the park, or that something may have happened to him. The police have stated that they don't suspect foul play to be involved, and they've asked that anyone with information come forward. Despite further searches being carried out by NC State Parks, the Mount Olive Police Department, the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, the Seven Springs Fire Department, and the Mac Water Response Team, Antonio remains missing, and his family is growing more concerned with every passing day. It struck many people as strange that Antonio's fishing gear was found at his favorite spot, since he would never have left it behind had he decided to vanish of his own accord. Unfortunately, not much more information is available in Antonio's case, and it's feared that it'll go cold unless someone comes forward with helpful information. Since foul play isn't suspected, he's listed as a missing person, but the details surrounding his disappearance continue to baffle investigators and his family alike. No description of Antonio has been made available, but judging from photos that have been made available by his family, he has long brown hair and brown eyes. It also isn't known what he was wearing when he was last seen at work. If you have any idea where Antonio may be, or have information on what happened to him, you're urged to get in contact with the Wayne County Office of Emergency Services at 919-731-1493. Number 4. 46-year-old Lasheky Hill was last seen on the 26th of March 2023, and since then her whereabouts have remained unknown. She was last known to be in the company of a male friend shortly before she vanished, and her case is still under investigation. According to most sources, Lasheky had lived in Racine, Wisconsin her entire life. She was raised there with 2 younger siblings, and at the time of her disappearance was a grandmother and mother of 2. She's described as having an outgoing and friendly personality, and according to her family, she would never willingly leave the area without informing them or someone close to her. They're growing ever more desperate for leads in her case, and have reached out to the public for information, but to no avail. The facts that are known in Lasheky's case are that on the 26th of March of that year, she was picked up by a male acquaintance from her home at around 10:45 p.m. She's known to live in the 1300 block of Douglas Avenue in Racine, and it's believed that the pair then drove to his house. Her mother became concerned when she hadn't heard from her by the next day, and the events that followed have left her and the rest of her family baffled. Lasheky was supposed to go out on the 26th of March since she was celebrating her birthday, but her mother noticed that she never posted to social media accounts that night, and also didn't send any photos of her night out, which she found very out of character. She immediately believed that something was wrong and contacted the police on the 28th to open a missing person case. Her family says that they've not heard from her since that day, and they fear that her case will grow cold. As soon as Lasheky was reported missing, searches of several locations were carried out. The police and volunteers searched through abandoned buildings in the area, but no trace of Lasheky was found. Next, they focused on wooded areas around Racine, as well as parks in the area, but with no positive results. Thanks to interviews that have been held with several people, investigators have stated that there are suspicious circumstances surrounding her disappearance, but they've declined to share any further details, since it is an open investigation. They've not released the names of any suspects, and hence it isn't known whether any have been identified. Then, the case took a strange turn. On the 13th of September, 2024, someone contacted the Racine Police Department to report that they should search a house located on Jackson Street. They added that when this was done, they would find human remains. The search was immediately carried out, and while nothing was found, it has been confirmed that the tip was related to Lasheky's disappearance. Her mother is certain that someone in the area knows something about the case, but they've decided not to come forward for reasons unknown. She added that she last saw her on the 26th of March when Lasheky came over to her house to collect some food that she had made. She left her 12-year-old son with her mother for the night after they'd visited for a while, and after she collected her plate of food, she stated she was heading home. The next day, she wished Lasheky a happy birthday on Facebook, but got no response. She also told investigators that she believes she knows the man who's responsible for Lasheky's disappearance, since he's a friend of the family. She now believes that her daughter is no longer alive, but still hopes that someone will come forward with information leading to her being found. If you have any such information, you're asked to come forward by contacting the Racine Police Department at 262-635-7756. Number 3. Concerns are always high when someone is reported missing, and it's found that they were last known to be spending time around a body of water. That's exactly what happened in the case of the disappearance of 33-year-old Emily Marie Ray, who's been missing since 2024. When Emily was 10 years old, her family moved to Athens in Georgia from Massachusetts, where she grew up. At the time of her disappearance, she was living in West Glacier, Montana, where she worked at the Scola School, which is part of the Whitefish community. To say that she's a lover of the outdoors would be an understatement, since she spent some time in Alaska, where she did some salmon fishing. She's known to be in good physical shape, which makes her disappearance all the more frustrating. Emily was reported as missing on the 16th of July, 2024, when she failed to return home from a paddleboard outing. Her family informed the police that on that morning, she traveled to the Riverside boat launch in Hungary Horse, where she did some paddleboarding, and she's not been seen since. The Flathead County Sheriff's Office immediately started an investigation, and when the area where she was last seen was searched, which was the boat ramp, her vehicle was located. Her Honda CR-V was still parked where she had left it in the parking lot, which raised further concerns. Just as worrying is the fact that her paddleboard was found overturned in the Flossie Creek area that same evening. It was discovered about 2 miles from the spot where she entered the water, which is an ominous sign. During the resulting investigation, Emily's cell phone data was analyzed, and coupled with the area where her car was found and CCTV footage from the area, it led investigators to believe that she'd entered the water alone. They estimate that she started paddling at around 8:30 p.m. Despite several searches being conducted, Emily's phone has never been found, but it's known to have last been active in the area between Martin City and the boat launch. Anyone who can add further information in her case is asked to contact the Flathead County Sheriff's Office at 406-758-5585. Number 2. The case of the disappearance of 66-year-old Michael Bolan is one that contains some interesting twists and turns, but also some very disturbing details that have left those close to him reeling, since his son is known to be involved. Michael and his son, 42-year-old Dustin, were living in McGuffey, Ohio, in March of 2024. And on the 28th of March, Michael wasn't at home, since he'd chosen to stay over at his mother's house. She would later tell the police that he left her house the next morning, but told her that he'd be back later since he needed to do some laundry. When he didn't return, she didn't think too much of it, as she assumed he'd been delayed or couldn't find the time to do his laundry. It's known that he was at his and Dustin's house the next day, since witnesses reported seeing him there. The house is located on the 300 block of Hunsaker Street. His family only started to suspect that something was wrong when he failed to attend a medical scan that was scheduled for the 29th of March at a nearby hospital. They tried to contact him on his cell phone, but they got no answer. They then filed a missing person report with the police, who then searched the areas around his house, but nothing related to his disappearance was found. The following month, his house was searched and certain items were removed as evidence. Investigators have not stated what these items were, but they have revealed that they've been sent to be forensically analyzed. It isn't known what the results of the analysis were, but they certainly helped in progressing the case, since Dustin was arrested shortly after. He was charged with ending Michael's life, tampering with evidence at a crime scene, and interfering with remains. He was also found to be in violation of a no-contact order against him, which was issued in relation to a domestic violence incident. At his trial, in March of 2025, Dustin pleaded guilty to all of the charges against him. It was revealed that Michael and Dustin had a strained relationship while sharing the house, and that the issue was only made worse by the fact that Dustin was addicted to illegal substances. Dustin later stated that he wished he'd simply left the house rather than take the actions that he did, and he was sentenced to 19 years in prison. Number 1. 32-year-old Brandy Renee Hanna is described by her friends and family as an introvert who only had a few friends and who preferred to stay at home when she wasn't working at Alex's restaurant in her hometown of Charleston, South Carolina. She'd only been working there for about 2 months when, on the 20th of May, 2005, she inexplicably disappeared. Her mother, Donna, also worked at the restaurant as a manager, and at the time, Brandy had been in a relationship with Michael Ray McAdams for about 6 years. But she ended that relationship when she met another man, Garland Langford, who was a friend of Michael's. He had recently become estranged from his wife and had been living with Brandy and Michael. Brandy and Garland moved out in April of that year and started renting an apartment close to the restaurant where she was employed. Unfortunately, that area of Charleston doesn't have the best reputation, as it's known for illegal drug trade and crime. The move proved to be a mistake, as Garland ended the relationship in May of that year, when he decided to reconcile with his wife. This left Brandy alone to pay the rent for the apartment, but she did her best to carry on. She went to work on the morning of the 20th of May, since her shift started at 7 a.m. She finished her shift at around 3 p.m., and she was picked up by a retired policeman, Randy Ragnow, who's known to give people rides around town when he has free time. At 5:50 p.m., Brandy spoke to Donna on the phone, and one of her friends, Amy, reported that she received a text from her at around 8 p.m. They spoke about a shopping trip that they'd planned since they wanted to shop for a bathing suit for their trip to the beach later on. She then sent a text to Garland at 10:19 p.m., and at 10:30 p.m., Amy arrived at her apartment, but found that she wasn't home. She could hear that the TV was on, but the lights had been turned off. When she called Brandy's phone, she could hear it ringing in the apartment, but getting no answer, she assumed she'd fallen asleep, and so she left. Brandy never showed up for her next shift, and she and Garland decided to check on her. When Donna arrived at the apartment, Garland was already inside. They found that her clothes and cash were still there, and that one of her phones was missing. She was reported as missing, and it would then be revealed that Brandy received a call during her last shift that left her frightened. Brandy's neighbor reported that she saw her getting into a red pickup truck on the 20th of May at around 9 p.m. Both Garland and Michael drove similar vehicles, but they were ruled out as suspects after passing polygraph test. A white Nike shoe, similar to a pair that Brandy owned, was found close to Riverfront Park in May of 2011, but it's not been confirmed as belonging to her. Garland later gave conflicting accounts of his whereabouts that night, and he was charged with obstruction of justice. Anyone who can add information to her case is asked to get in contact with the North Charleston Police Department at 843-745-1015. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.